What are your strengths to leverage? And the thing I ask them to focus on instead of their weakness is what is your stretch strength that you need to develop. I'd rather have them doing something positive than trying to not do something negative when I'm working with them. And so I would like to open this up to a volunteer where we can talk about you and your weaknesses. Anybody want to volunteer? I guess I have to do it then. This is my ITI results. That stands for Interpersonal Triangle Inventory. It's an inventory that I developed, and it is not tested. Someday I hope I can find some graduate student to do that and do some validity studies on it. But for now, it's just a good communication tool. And this comes from my workshop on working with difficult people. And I worked with a very, very difficult colleague several years ago. And so this is my ITI. It's based on two completely separate inventories. One will be my positive scores and then my negative scores. They are not related to each other. So a very quick, I worked with a woman who was a senior consultant to me. She had a lot more experience than I had. And she was a lioness. Her red glowed. And I have a tendency when I get around alphas to get a little subservient to them. And I'll show you what happened to me. We'll do the positives first. Let's start off on a good foot. You notice my scores in the positive are pretty close together. I am in the SDI, the Strength Deployment Inventory. I'm what's called a hub. A hub is a person who does all three. I do all three equally as well and equally as poorly. It's what makes me a good consultant and not a good leader. I ran clinics at Fuller for about 3 or 4 years. I'm very proud of the work I did. I, in fact, was the only person, as far as I know, ever got the clinic in the black. And I couldn't wait to get out of there. I'm more of a consultant, and that's a great consultant's work, because I can tin man listen very carefully, but I can tell them the truth, and I can sit back and be objective. Now, hubs also tend to be wishy-washy. I drive my wife crazy. Fish or chicken? Fish or chicken? Okay, let's look at the real interesting part of this. For me and my relationship with this colleague is on the negative scores. My lowest negative score is Lion 12. What that basically means is I did not lose my cool. I did not get mean or angry at her openly. Openly. Instead, what was my high score? Tin Man. I conformed. I appeased. I would come in there with an idea, and I would leave with her idea. And I would leave going, yeah, she's right. And then 2 or 3 hours later, I'm going, what? That's what negative moving toward does. We adapt. We're chameleons. That's how we get by. And my next negative was 17. My next highest score was detachment. I would go cold. I remember sitting in a meeting one time. We're sitting in here with these major stakeholders in this company. We had a plan and agenda. We're following it, and all of a sudden she goes off into another direction, and I think in retrospect, I know it was the wrong direction. The whole meeting went to you know what, and I just froze. I couldn't think. I was freezing and appeasing, and I disconnected emotionally. So I did my 21 and my 17. We came to an impasse, and there was a really important impasse, and I knew my proclivity at that point because I used this model here, and I said, okay, what do I have to do when I go into this meeting? What was my stretch strength? You tell me, what was my stretch strength? Did I have to do more lion, tin man, or scarecrow? Lion. I went in there. Before I had to do a lot of prep, and I do this when I coach people. I said, it's really hard to be authentic in the moment because our limbic system overrides. But you can prepare how you want to go into a meeting. So I said, okay, here are my 3 main points. Here are my 3 main points. By the way, these are my 3 main points. And I went in there and I said, I'm going to stick to my 3 main points. So I go in with the intention of being lion. And I gave my 3 main points, and she said something that I normally would have swayed off, and I came back to my 3 main points. And I could feel the gravitational pull to conform and appease. And here are my 3 main points. And after I did it a few times, then we had a really good conversation, because I was able to stay in the game with her. So that's what I'm talking about, right? This is an example of how to use this model. Does that make sense? Okay. So we want our leaders, and we want ourselves as leaders to be functioning on above the fold, fluidly, along those lines. So how do we get these 3-dimensional leaders into our companies, into our teams? What time do I have to finish? Oh, okay, good. How do we get these 3-dimensional leaders into our teams, into our organization? I could think of 3 ways. The easiest way, hire them. I probably spend now 1/3 to half of my consulting is helping organizations hire new staff, new managers, new executives. I use what I call the DISCO method. And I have a white paper that you can get on my website if you'd like. I also am going to let the first 5 people who want to do the ITI, I'll be willing to do that with you. The DISCO D stands for defining the role. Don't hire to the old job description. Think about this hire as, 1, how do you align this hire with your strategic plan? And who is this hire going to be? What are the best qualities of this person, and who should they be? Then the I takes over. This would be the identification. I'll help them develop a strategy for that. I don't do I. Some of our members here do. Then the S is developing going through the selection process. After we identify the top 2 or 3 candidates, then we have them go through some testing. The testing is geared towards the ideal candidate. I do profiling. Then we develop a standardized behavioral interview. Sometimes I sit in on an interview, sometimes not. And then the C stands for choice. How do you choose this person? What's the criteria? And then the one I love the most and is done the least is onboarding. I love when a company lets me stay with a new hire for the next 3 to 6 months, where you can anticipate problems. You can help them blend into the culture and into the new position. You can work collaboratively with the whole team before there's a problem. Well, that's the easiest way. The best way of getting people in your company is by being the company that's worth those types of hires. It's a situation where if your culture is a culture that supports and models that kind of behavior, you will naturally have a selection process where, just like a saltwater fish will not want to stay in fresh water very long, bad leaders won't want to stay in a leader when there's a bunch of people who are having integrity. Integrity, I love the word integrity, has 3 meanings. Integrity means, of course, goodness, morally upright. The second thing is, when we say a building has integrity, we're not saying that a building has a moral foundation. We're saying it's strong, it holds together. And the third thing for integrity means moving pieces all working together, integrated. If we're a company that has leaders like that, I love the phrase, we get what we tolerate. So when we have a company that has a culture like that, you automatically bad leaders will self-select out.